Still in that full moon in Aquarius eclipse energy as we begin this week. We've got Mercury conjunct the sun. Mars and Venus got some shifts this week too. And this is your Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of September 8th through the 14th, my friend. Welcome back to the Cosmic Mystic. If we have not met, hello, Danny C. Muniz here. This is where we blend strategy and soul work to help healers, coaches, conscious leaders build soul-aligned lives and businesses that fully support their soul's mission. If you are new here, as I said, I am the creator of this channel and of the Inner Alchemy method and the new Rise and Align experience. And we are here to help spiritual women reclaim their power, embody their truth, and lead from within. For over 12 years, I've supported conscious leaders in doing the deep soul work, getting in and really letting it go so that they can make space to embody their highest expression. My friend, each video here on this channel is in some way, shape, or form to help you navigate the inner world and how that reflects in your outer world. So whether we're talking about astrology, whether we're talking about mindset reframes, whether we're doing breath work, or whether we're doing some healing, my friend, that is what we are here for in this channel. So if you are here for that, because this is what I'm about, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you've been here for a while, my friend, it is so good. I'm so blessed and honored that you keep coming back each week. Let me know that you are here in the chat. I do absolutely love, and I've learned how to figure out how to see the comments. I've had this channel for so long and I didn't really understand or know how to navigate that. So if I've ever been late on my comments or replies to you, I'm so sorry. It's just, I didn't really know where to get it, and then I would find it and then I didn't know how to find it again. So with that being said, let's dive into my favorite thing to kick off these videos with, which is our state of the planets. But before I do that, I do want to remind you of two things. Number one, that this is this week's Sidereal Astrology from September 8th through the 14th of 2025. If you're wanting the bigger picture of what's going on this month, then definitely check out our September overview forecast, because that has really at a broad view everything that is happening in the month. It talks about the full moon that we just had in Aquarius. It talks about the new moon that we'll have later this month. These specific videos, this one right here, is just to inform you about this week in particular and how to navigate these energies, what they are, and how to really just kind of understand what the planets are here to tell you, or here to invite you into, because that's what it is, my friend, right? We have free will and we are able to take something and do something or not. It is completely up to us. The second thing is that if you are catching this on the YouTube channel, I want to let you know that there is a podcast. And if you're on the podcast, to let you know that there is a YouTube channel. They are the same name, The Cosmic Mystic. It's just The Cosmic Mystic Podcast is the only difference. And you'll find different things on both of the channels. So on the YouTube channel, we have the forecast here with the video where you can see the charts. We also have the Rise and Align series where we have the teaching and we have the embodiment with the breath work at the end. On the podcast, we have the teach, but we don't have the breath work. And then on the podcast, we also have interviews. So there's other interviews on there. There's other teachings from me randomly on both channels here and there. So stay tuned for all of that, and be sure to subscribe to both of those channels if that's something that you're interested in. All right, here we go with our state of the planet. So this is what I like to call state of the planets. It's just where everybody is as we begin this week. All right, as we kick off, we can see our sun is in its final days here in Leo. We've got just a little bit longer before Leo shifts out of to the sun shift out of Leo and into Virgo. So next week you'll hear me talk all about our sun in Virgo, what that means, and you'll see you'll hear, not see, a full podcast episode all about Virgo season and how to work with that energy. I did the same for Leo season, so if you're on the podcast, go check out that episode as well. All right, so the sun here is making its final leg in Leo. We've got it conjunct our south node here at 24 degrees Leo, and our conjunction is starting to happen here with Mercury in Leo at 17 degrees. We'll talk more about that in just a sec. We've got Venus here at 22 degrees Cancer, so she's still over here in her last legs of Cancer. We've got Jupiter here in Gemini, who is finishing up its stint in Gemini in October. It will be moving out of Gemini and into Cancer, and that is going to shift things, my friend. Let me tell you. We'll talk more about that as we get closer to October. Here is Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is still retrograde. Chiron over here retrograde in Aries at 2 degrees. Neptune and Saturn both in Pisces retrograde. We've got the moon kicking off this week here in Pisces, our north node in Aquarius, and we've got Pluto over here retrograde in Capricorn still. And finally, Mars over here in its last leg of Virgo, which it will be moving out later this month into Libra. But for now, it is finishing up in that very systemized, organized fashion of getting things in order. All right, so let's talk about this sun and the couple of aspects here that I did want to talk about. And I did want to talk about that full moon in Aquarius. So if you haven't seen the overview, I'm going to go in much more detail in that overview, but I do want to touch on it just a bit as we come off that energy. So first off, let's talk about this sun conjunct Mercury, as well as this sextile over here to Jupiter. So whenever we are talking about conjunctions, as you've probably heard me say in the past, is conjunctions I like to look at as the sun is home, it's doing its thing. Mercury is coming to visit the sun and spend time with the sun. And so those energies, just as you would have if a friend came to visit you, you would have this interaction, you would have this connection, you would share things, right? You're sharing space. And that's exactly what a conjunction is. It's that sharing of space. And so there's a lot of focus here because the sun is our consciousness and Mercury is our thinking and communication, how we process information. So there's a lot of thinking here, my friend. There's a lot of focus on thinking and communication. And because Mercury does rule over short travel, you might be thinking about some short travel that you might want to take. And when I say short travel, this is something that is like not very far away, a couple of hours, maybe a half day trip. Maybe it's like a 4 or 5 hour trip, 1 day type thing overnight. It's that shorter couple of days max, right? It's that short kind of travel that you might be thinking about. And with the weather starting to change in a lot of the country, not where I'm at, in southern Texas or central Texas is where I'm at. We are still very hot. Let's just say we are still very hot. We're cooling a little. We're getting to the lower 90s, but we're still hot. All right, let's talk about, so some of the things you might find here is that there's a lot of adaptability, there's a lot of curiosity here, and just wanting to connect with people, like on a very personal level, just like wanting to connect, more social type energy. And that's going to be through the 19th is when Mercury will pull away from the sun. So it'll come closer and closer and closer, and then it'll start to pull away. And so as it starts to pull away, that's going to start to die just a little bit as we, in fact, prepare for fall equinox. Okay, kicking off, the next one is that sextile over here to Jupiter. So anytime we're talking about Jupiter in a more positive aspect, I hate to use that, but it is more of a positive aspect because the sextiles really work together. We're talking about these two really, they're 60 degrees apart, and they're really, complementing each other very, very well. They're not as close as a conjunction is, where we're really sharing things, but they're more supportive. It's like that friend that lives in your neighborhood, or the one that you can call if they live out of state, right? That's kind of there for you. They're not super, super close by, but they're there, and you can call on them, and you can, get some advice from them. So with Jupiter being the most optimistic planet of all the planets, it's bringing in a lot of optimism, a lot of happiness, a lot of luck, right? So this is a really good time. Like if you have some goals that you've been working on, or you've been wanting to achieve, like to really focus in on those goals. We'll see that as we shift into Virgo season, like getting things organized and ready, but really having that optimism and that possibility thinking of like, okay, I can do this. So use that, my friend, use that. If you've been kind of stuck, if things have been kind of like, oh, this isn't working out, like use this Jupiter's optimism to help you, like, okay, things are working out for me. Things are working out in my favor. And, I do love affirmations. And I will say here, I really do need to do a full video on this about affirmations, because I have a lot of thoughts about affirmations. But one of the things I would say, if you are, stuck in something like that and you want to use this Jupiter energy, I might be in a place to say, with this Jupiter energy, I'm excited for the possibility of what might come, right? Or the possibilities in X goal, right? Whatever that might be. I might be able to do that and believe that, right? I might be in a place where I can believe that. If that's not where you're at, you're like, Danny, nothing is working out. Everything seems to just come crashing down on me right now, because that is where you are right now. Then I want you to consider shifting those words just a little bit to, I'm curious how Jupiter's optimism can come my way, right? I'm open to Jupiter showing me some optimism around this. I'm open to being more lucky, right? The wording there shifts just a little bit. And so it's not that I know that this is happening, right? It's I'm curious about this. I wonder how this might happen. And I can believe that. If you can believe that statement, then that is where an affirmation can be very powerful. If when you say it and you're rejecting it, that is where the problem is, my friend. And so I want you to consider that as maybe you call in Jupiter for some support here. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. All right, we've got the full moon that I do want to talk about that did take place on the 7th. So this was just yesterday, right? And this was at 1:09 p.m. So we are still in that energy. We've got probably, into Tuesday that we're going to see this energy. So anytime we're talking about a full moon, first off, we are talking about the opposition of two zodiac signs, the sun being in Leo and the moon being in Aquarius. So this being a full moon in Aquarius. Well, this particular full moon also is what's called an eclipse, right? So, and it's a total, it's not a total solar eclipse, it's a total lunar eclipse. So as we see eclipses, how I like to look at eclipses, and I don't always put a lot of emphasis in the idea of eclipse, but I did want to note it here because I know I didn't note it in our September forecast. And that is because there's a lot with this particular full moon that I want you to really, really focus your energy into. And sometimes when we start talking about eclipses, right, people get a little like, it's an eclipse, it's big, right? And yes, eclipses can be a little wonky. They can be a little interesting. Sometimes people don't like to set intentions during an eclipse. I'm not somebody who is very hard and fast about that. It's up to you and how you feel the energy. If you feel called to set an intention or you feel called to do a release under an eclipse, that's completely up to you. I don't see that as you shouldn't or should. I think anybody who's that rigid in things, it's just too dogmatic for me. I don't like it. So, which is very Aquarius actually, right? Aquarius does not like the rules. And so there is this idea with this particular full moon and its configurations of a bit of rebellion here, of us, us who are doing the deeper shadow work to bring out more of that uniqueness, right? And start leading with that uniqueness. And that's really what I want you to take from this particular full moon as we are moving through it and in these days here following it. How are you honoring your uniqueness? How are you leading with those things that make you unique? And if you're not sure what makes you unique, start asking some of your friends, people who are close to you, maybe your biz besties, like ask them, like, hey, what makes me unique? How do you see me as different from other people, right? I have a friend, she's been on the podcast before, Victoria Sexton. Shout out to Victoria. She makes mocktails, right? But she doesn't just make mocktails. She makes herbal mocktails. And that is very different, right? She is an herbalist. And so all of her mocktails and even all of her food, there is a very healing component because she is working with herbs in their energy, right? In their spirits and what they bring to you. And so her mocktails aren't just mocktails that we're seeing on Pinterest or we're seeing on social media, right? Hers actually have herbs in there. They're herb based. A lot of the bases are with teas, right? Herbal teas. And I just find that so different and so unique. And so, I saw her post a reel and I messaged her and I was like, hey, you should talk about the herbalness of your mocktails, because that is her uniqueness. That makes her different. That helps her stand out from all the other people that are posting about mocktails right now, right? Okay, moving on, because I could sit here and preach on that probably forever. Okay, let's move on to Mercury. So Mercury, we first know, right, conjunct the sun, but there are a couple of things that are coming into place this week that I do want to share with you. And that is right here on the 9th, Mercury is going to be sextile Jupiter, right? Because they are conjunct. We just heard about the sun being sextile Mercury. So if they are conjunct, if they're hanging out, then it's like Mercury's on the phone. This is how I visualize things, and I hope it helps you. It's like Mercury came to visit and Mercury's on the phone, or maybe it's on Zoom, or maybe it's FaceTiming with Jupiter, and the sun is there, right? The sun is overhearing. And so there's also this influence between Mercury and the sun and Mercury and Jupiter, right? There's this triangle, right, of communication, the triangular communication. There we go. All right. So if the sun and Mercury were having us focus, right, on this optimism and this luck, Mercury's going to give us that thinking ability to think about the future, to think about the bigger picture, because Jupiter also is that big picture type viewpoint. So, when people say, I can't see the forest from the trees, right? Like they're so into the details, which, we can get caught in those details, that we have to like expand out. And Jupiter's here to really help you do this with that sextile with Mercury, helping you take that eagle eye view, look at the bigger picture, because sometimes if we're stuck by those little details. So zoom on out, my friend. You might find that your outlook on everything is just bigger, broader. You might be able to see things in a new light, in a new way. Communication skills, right? Really open and expressive, because that's Jupiter's energy. It's really big. And so you might find that people are really speaking out and really sharing. If you're somebody who struggles with that, use this energy to do that, my friend. Really great for debates, and like good debates, and not those debates where, right, we're trying to prove and make somebody change their mind in a more harmful way, but like those healthy debates that we have, like this is such a good time for that. So be mindful if you have friends or family members that like to debate you on things. They just might be wanting to stir some things up. And so that is up to you, my friend, if you are in the space to have that debate or not. All right, let's look at the next one that's coming in. And this is going to be towards the end of the week. So this will be on Sunday. the 14th, and that is right here with Saturn. We've got Daddy Saturn here in opposition to Mercury. So when we look at an opposition, I say this all the time, it's like we both want the same thing. Mercury and Saturn both have the same objective, but the ways in which they are going about it are very different, right? Maybe Mercury got hurt by Saturn, right? Or maybe Saturn can see something that Mercury's doing and it's like, no, I know this is the way that it works. And so they're definitely in conflict because they have opposing ideas of how to get something done. So this transit might bring in, and this is from the 14th through the 20th, so right here at the end of this week into pretty much most of the next week, is going to bring some seriousness to things, right? Now, where we had that really beautiful, optimistic energy with Jupiter, and I want to note this here because this is what it could feel like, right? You could have that really beautiful, optimistic, gung-ho, let's do this through this week, and then we move into next week and Saturn comes in and it poo-poos, right? Shits all over your positive thinking, right? This can happen, and that's why I want to tell you this, because it could get more serious, it could get more deep, it could get restrictive, because Saturn is here to really show us our boundaries, our limitations. And so he's here yes, I know you want to do that, but what about this? But what about that? But what about this? And so I want you to know that if that starts to happen, if you start getting into that place where dang it, I was so excited about this and I'm not excited about this anymore, look at those thoughts, and are they coming through as those limitations? And if they are, be like, I recognize you, Saturn. I see what you're doing. And this too shall pass. All right. Moving on to the next one, we're going to talk about Mars. And Mars, first off, we're going to talk about Mars with Venus. Okay, so I mentioned here that Mars was going to be changing signs. So here it is, Mars in Libra. As Mars moves into Libra, we move out of that energy of discipline, hard work, getting things in order that we saw with Virgo, to this energy of let's find some balance, let's find some peace, let's find some harmony, let's make sure things are balancing out now that I have this structure and this system in place, because that's what structure can do for us, right? I think a lot of the times we kind of get caught in this idea that I don't want structure, right? I'm free flowing. I love to be in that flowy place. And it's funny because that flowy that flowy place needs a container, or else it just goes all over the place and doesn't get anywhere. It needs a container. And so with this energy of Mars being in Libra, it's like we've set the container so that we can have that more freedom and peace. If I look at from a business standpoint with automation, I was very much against automation for a long time because I was like, it takes the heart out of everything. I just feel like I'm not there, I'm not present, right? If I write my emails and I put them into my system for the month and they just go out every week, right? And I'm not connected to my audience, to my community, right? That kind of a place. But what it actually did was give me so much freedom, right? When I sit down and write my emails for the month and I have them all scheduled out, the day to day, I don't have to worry about it. It's not consuming my energy, and I can focus on other things. I can focus on giving myself space, right, in the middle of the day to do a meditation, or giving myself space to journal something or read a book or take a class, right? There's a million things I can do now because I've allowed myself this balance, this harmony, this peace, this space, because I've set that container. And so that's really what Mars in Virgo was helping us set that container. So now we can work within that container and have more of that peace and harmony and joy, okay? So that is Mars moving into Libra. But there is a couple of aspects here, as we can see, that I do want to talk about. And there's two in particular, well, three in particular, no, two in particular that I want to talk about for this week. And that is this one that came in with it, which is a sextile with Venus, that came in on the 5th. So this is from last week, but I did want to talk about it here because we are seeing that shift here with the Libra energy as well. So Mars and Venus, right? You've heard the saying, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? This kind of total opposite energy where Venus is more of that feminine energy, Mars is more of the masculine energy. But these two kind of start to work together here, which I think is one of the most powerful things we can do, is when we can balance our feminine energy and our masculine energy, bring those two together, man. We are so powerful when we can do that and know when to use which one. And that is here what Venus and Mars are doing. They're helping us be able to use that beautiful like social connections and that beautiful like affection and love, and Mars is confidence, right? And just drive and desire, like bringing those two together, really, really beautiful. I would say also there's this aspect of going beyond kind of surface level in our relationships. So we're looking at more real, more deep, more chemistry in our relationships, not like those superficial like qualities maybe, but more of that depth here, especially with those two, you know, with Venus being in Cancer and Mars here being in Libra. Now, Venus is going to be moving out of Cancer, and we'll talk about that in next week's video, but she is going to be moving out of Cancer, so that is going to shift things up just a bit, and we'll talk about that next week. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about is this opposition over here with Chiron. As I mentioned earlier, oppositions are a little bit of that battle energy, right? Fighting against each other. So there is some tension here between action and healing. And I love this transit. And so both of these transit, I didn't say it, but I'm going to say it here. Both of these transit come in right here on, Venus came in on the 5th. Chiron comes here on the 8th, and they're going to be here through about the 25th, 26th of September. So they're going to, most of our month here, they are going to be in play. And so with Chiron, there is a tension between action and healing. And if you think about this with that Libra energy of balance, so, Mars wants to take action. And Chiron, right, it wants to heal. It wants to bring things forward so that we can have that forward momentum. So I want you to think about this particular aspect, because it might feel like this. It might feel like you have been trucking along, especially with that Jupiter energy. You're going, Saturn comes in, kind of stops you, sets you back a little bit, like, wait, what's going on? And then you might even start to feel like, whoa, I'm having to take a step back. Like you might feel like you have to take a big step back because it's asking you to process something. It's asking you to look at something and not just move forward, because that thing's going to come back up, right? It's still going to come forward. I will oftentimes in sessions with people we'll bring stuff forward and it's like, okay, well, here's what we need to deal with, right? This is what's behind this thing that's affecting us right here. This is what's behind it. So let's work through this. Let's talk about this. Let's see what is connected to this, right? Going through the sacred spiral of healing to really help us in that so that we can then move forward. I had a client the other day tell me, Danny, I was talking to a friend of mine and I was telling her that I'm so proud of myself in the growth that I've had in my business and the things that I have done in my business in the past couple of months since I started working with you. And what's interesting is she told her friend, we never talk about business. We don't talk about business. I've never given her any business strategy. We've never talked about her business. but doing the work that she has been needing to do for a while, or helping her move through some of the things that she's been holding on to, is clearing up her space, is clearing up her energy so that she can take those steps, so that she can move forward and have the energy to do that. And so this particular aspect here, it might feel like we're taking some steps back, but it is so that we can move forward and move forward with more veracity, more be in alignment and with more force, right? So there could be some wounds that are coming forward. This is why I want to let you know this, that Saturn might trigger it, and this might start bringing in some more and more. So this is one of the reasons why, looking at the transits that were happening this month, that I did decide to launch Rise and Align in fall, right? As these things are happening, we're still in that retrograde period, and coming to the end of the year, this is a container for you to come in and really embody your next version, the version of you that you are ready to step into. That's what Rise and Align is all about. All right, let's talk about the last aspect here, which is Venus. Our last planet, which we just have one aspect that I want to talk about, and that is over here with Chiron, just to shadow a little bit of what we were talking about with the opposition with Chiron. We've got the trine over here with Venus. And so Venus here being in Aries, and Venus being in Cancer. Sorry, I had my words mixed up there. All right, so this is going to be from the 11th through the 20th. So here at the middle of the week into the middle of next week. These are some themes, because again, whenever we're talking about Chiron, we're talking about some shadow work. We're talking about deeper wounds. And so where the wounds around action and moving things forward might have come up with Mars, we also might be having the self-worth relationships, whether it's your self-worth in relationships in general. Vulnerability is something that also can come up here, and even your creativity. Venus does rule over that energy of art and beauty, and so that definitely, that creative energy comes into play here as well. So this might look like something that you might want to consider here, to look at or to be aware of, is integrating those wounds, right, into accepting self more, into stepping into more self-acceptance of who you are. When we think about embodying the next version of you, we don't just want to dismiss who we are, right? We don't want to dismiss what we've done or what we've achieved or what we've overcome. We don't want to just dismiss that, because that would be too shocking to the system. And so there's an aspect of accepting of self, of who we are now, and not disregarding that so that we can just step into the next version, right? We've got to be able to accept ourselves, and that's what this is inviting here. In relationships, allowing some vulnerability, allowing some deeper connection, right? When we're vulnerable with people, we're able to have that deeper connection, right? We feel that sense of, I see you, I understand you, I feel you, right? We can have that deeper bond. I have been watching Survivor from season 1. I have never watched it, any of the seasons. And so my love and I started a couple months ago, probably maybe longer, watching all the seasons. We're like in season 36 or so right now, or we're leaning towards getting closer to the end, because I think there's like 49 seasons right now. But there are moments where these people are trying to survive, yes, and they're trying to get to the end to win that $1 million. And I find that they build those connections, right, when they are vulnerable. We, as the audience looking in, we relate to certain, members of the tribe cast by their vulnerability, right? When they share something that is so vulnerable, we can feel it, or the other tribe members bond, and that's what happens here. And so we can use that to deepen our relationships. So in business, some of the things that I might recommend is looking at your offerings, and are they authentic to you, right? I talked about this kind of idea, how I was feeling out of alignment with cosmic alignment, my former version of Rise and Align, and how I just kind of wanted to throw it away. I talked about that in one of our Rise and Align series. Actually, it was last week's episode, where I talked about how I wanted to just kind of throw it away, but I knew that it was still good, but there was something that was missing from it. It wasn't authentic to who I was anymore. And so I needed to shift that, right? And so I stepped back, gave it some space, and got that insight into that missing piece, which was the embodiment piece. It's that kind of a thing. Like, you're looking at your offerings. Do you feel in alignment with them? Do they feel authentic to who you are and what you're here to do? Or is there a disconnect here? Do you need to put it on the back burner for a bit and allow some space? Leadership, and coming from a place of empathy, right? Being able to guide others with sensitivity, with understanding, with compassion, whether that's your audience, your community, your clients, your team members. Like, are we being empathetic, right? Are we being sensitive and understanding? Now, I'm not saying to accept, bad work, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying being compassionate if somebody is struggling with something, right? Boundaries. So boundaries to avoid burnout. That's one of the things that I know, that I have to have really strong boundaries around my time and the things that I do, especially if I have a lot going on, like if I have a lot of full days back to back. I know that there's going to be some boundaries, right? I've had a couple of weeks here that have been really full, really full. I have this week in particular, which is a very full week for me. And next week will be another very full week. So 2 really full back-to-back weeks. I know that I need some space. And so what did I do? I went into my calendar and I blocked off half of that last week of September, because I was like, I've had a whole lot and I need space, right? I need some space. And so that's a very healthy boundary that I put up so that I don't burn out, right? I don't want to get to burnout and figure out what I have to do. I want to be able to get behind that, or get before that, right? The last thing is your community. So where and how are you supporting your community? How are you building that network through that vulnerability and through showing your growth and what you're going through? All right, my friend, this is your Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of September 8th through the 14th. As I mentioned, we have a lot going on here, right? You can see there's a lot of shifts that I just want you to be aware of. And remember that these are bringing these things up for a reason. I have a very strong belief that we only come into consciousness the things that we are ready to move through, the things that we are ready to heal, the things that we are ready to adjust. That only comes when we are absolutely ready for them. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but we are absolutely ready. We are strong enough to do it, and it is here to remind you. So these transits are here to guide you, my friend. Final thing, if you are ready to step into that next version of you, I would love to invite you in to Rise and Align the experience. This is 12 weeks to embody the next version of you, to fully step into that version of you. We're going to have weekly themes around the universal laws, because I really believe that once you learn what the universal laws are and how to work with them, that is where that true sovereign power comes from. When I started to understand the universal laws and learned how I was in fact the creator of my reality, and here's the laws that I can use to support that, totally shifted everything for me and really has allowed me over and over again to step into that next version of myself and truly embody that. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to use this entire fall season to do just that. I don't believe in the quick and the fast. I believe it is slow and that there is progress. And I'm here in holding that container, holding that space for you to do that work. So we've got our daily alignment calls 3 times a week that are here to help you align your energy and step into the creator of your reality, move you up in that frequency. We have support calls to help you shift out of the stories that are blocking you from embodying that version of you, and a really beautiful community space that is not on social media because we all know that that can be very distracting. And so I wanted to make sure that we had a space that felt like we could come to and feel safe in. All right, my friend, you'll find more information about that in our show notes. And you can always go to thepeaceteacher.com and learn more about all the things. But for Rise and Align, go to thepeaceteacher.com/be her now. With that, my friend, we wrap up this video and I say to you to have a great week ahead. Bring in that Jupiter energy. And as always, remember to shine your unique light.